Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So before we go and create our new red Exodar today, one of you awesome viewers, Silent here, pointed out that there was a vendor that I had actually missed named Gall that had some transmog items available to purchase, as well as a Hearthstone after you unlock the Seeing Red achievement. I went back over to Crockle Hovel and was able to check out all the items available, and I saw that there were certain materials that were needed in order to purchase them. So I want to thank you so much, Silent, for letting me know about this. I love the bow, and I really want to make a transmog around that at some point. And because I'm such a great content creator, I was so excited about getting back to the city and checking out the new customizations last episode that I also forgot to learn the toy, the Mirror of Humility, which is actually the reward that you get when you turn in that last quest. This is really neat and transforms you into a repentant Man'ari with some cracked skin features and a little bit of fell in the horns. It lasts for an hour. I do really like this and we'll probably use this on some other characters at some point. I actually don't use a lot of the toys in game. I kind of forget about them if I'm being honest, but that is why these videos exist. So let's move on and create our new Draenei. And there you saw her, Miss Morzael. I decided to go with a mage for my Draenei. Of course, lore-wise, a warlock would have made sense if you're going for that OG Eridar before the lore had actually been retconned for the Burning Crusade. I even briefly thought about even doing a paladin as a way to slowly repent for all of their wrongdoings. It kind of made sense to me that they could be working their way towards finding the light again and writing their past, all of that. I even imagined that, like, if I were doing this character as an RP, that her skin might slowly fade over time from the red to maybe the more traditional blue Draenei colors. But based on the quest line, the Man'ari quest line, it seems like Velen wants to give a lot of the corrupted a second chance. So to me, it's possible to kind of roll anything. But I think a fire mage sounds like a lot of fun for this, so that's what I decided to do. I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping here, set up my UI and all of that fun stuff, and I'll meet you back in a moment. Look at that, all nice and clean. So here we accept our first quest called You Survived from Megalon. He doesn't want us to worry about his injuries at the moment, and it appears as though we have actually been out of commission for a little while. The Exodar has crashed, many have died, but he was relieved that we are alive. So we are to speak to Proentius at the crash site. So that is where we are going to head. I've been on a bit of a lore kick for most of this year after reading the Arthas book back in January. So we're going to go through Ammen Vale, take our time, slow down, see what kind of items we can kind of pick up along the way. I think my ATT is a little bit bugged up there. 23% in Ammen Vale. I don't think there's a lot to collect here, so we will have to see how that goes. So Proentius doesn't know why the Exodar has crashed, but we can't worry or think about that right now. We have to save everybody that we can. We turn that in, level up, and accept replenishing the healing crystals. Exodar's crash has left all of the Draenei's healing crystals depleted. We need to try and recharge them, but the only way to do that is to use the blood from the nearby moths in the Vale as a substitute. So that's what we need to do next. Collect 6 vials of moth blood and bring them back to Proenitus. I then decided to pop on my heirloom mount to head back and turn in the moth blood quest. He's a little sad that the moths had to die on behalf of their lives. It's not the Draenei way to kill like that, but the blood should replenish the healing crystals just great, and we get some shoes and a level out of it. The quest urgent delivery was next. Now that we have the blood, we will need to deliver the vials to Zaldun, the local priest inside the ship. This is actually where I flubbed up a little bit when it comes to the collecting part of this. I saw the quest off to my right there, volatile mutations, and accepted it, but then my all the things add-on yelled at me saying that if I completed this first, I wouldn't be able to collect the quest Botanist Terex, which is given to you after you turn in urgent delivery. But I did end up fixing this, as you will see coming up. So we made our way into the ship, turned the vials into Zaldun, where we get a new task. The healing crystals have been replenished, but there are still things we can do to help the injured. We have a special ability called the Gift of the Naru, even as a Man'ari, and we are to use that ability to heal one of the crash survivors. On the way back, because I had just abandoned volatile mutations for now, the quest that would have been missing from my completion, Botanist Terex, was available. We rolled back into the central chamber to the ship and let Zaldun know that we were successful in using our ability, even if it looked a bit fell-like. Back outside, we'll get another level up, and Botanist Terex explains that the irradiated power cores from the Exodar have caused some strange creatures to pop up all over the place. There are too many of them to handle, so we need to thin the numbers a little, 8 to be exact, while she thinks of some other solutions. We let Botanist Terex know that the strange mutations have been dealt with, and she has a plan. The nearby lake was contaminated with one of the power crystals, and she thinks this is why many of the plants and animals have become mutated. She doesn't know for sure, so she needs some samples from the mutated plants. So we're off to gather 10 lasher samples. Apprentice Vishael mentions that Terex is worried that with the corruption of the water from the lake, the lashers will not be able to repopulate after the water is cleansed. So while we're getting the lasher samples, we'll also be gathering some of the corrupted flowers as well. On the way, we meet technician Zana. She tells us that the local Alkin carried off the emitter spare parts that they can use to repair a damaged holographic emitter that they found. And Vindicator Eldar mentions that Terex created an inoculum for those same Nestlewood Alkins. So while we're taking back those spare parts, we'll make them take their medicine at the same time. But first, we have to deal with these lashers. We gave Botanist Terex the lasher samples. That completion gave us another level up and a neutralizing agent that we were to use on the irradiated power crystal in the lake. But don't worry, we won't be there long enough to get irradiated ourselves. We handed over the flowers to Apprentice Vishael, who apparently didn't have time to analyze them, and we created ourselves a little snack to head off to cleanse the lake. Nestlewood Thicket is right next door, and although the quest text mentioned that we would have to kill the Alkin that were affected by the radiation, that does not seem to be a thing anymore. All of the Alkin were neutral, and we got to work cleansing those that didn't seem affected yet. While I was doing that, I came across a squirrel that I needed for the All the Squirrels I've Loved Before achievement. The poor thing was dead, and I wasn't sure if it would still count towards the achievement, so I ended up leaving him behind. We collected the emitter spare parts and started to head back to the crash site. Turning in Inoculation, I know my All the Things said I needed to collect the Elixir of Lion's Strength, which I thought was kind of strange anyway, because I've never had to collect a specific consumable before, but I did what it said. Vindicator Aldar mentions that there has been unusual and suspicious activity up on a place called Shadow Ridge, and one of the scouts hasn't reported back yet, so we're off to find someone called Tolan to see what has happened. Technician Zana got her spare parts, and she gave us some hand-sewn pants. She didn't have any further quests for us, so I put on my new pants and my new shoes from earlier, sold some stuff, and headed back to Terex to let her know that the lake had been cleansed and her neutralizing agent was a success. Along the way to Shadow Ridge, I came across this mourning Draenei kneeling next to a group of handmade headstones for those that had died from the crash, but one in particular he mentions, his sweet Luhana. I decided to pause and stand with him for a moment to pay my respects before moving on. We find the one named Tolan kneeling in the grass, injured. Blood elves have ambushed him, so it's time to eliminate the blood elf threat and find out what they're up to. Killing 10 blood elf scouts should help. While I was wiping out the blood elf population, I also took down Surveyor Candris, who had some blood elf plans on her. Tolan is thankfully still with us when we get back to him, and he provides us with some new weathered cloth armor. And then, guess what? We have to go back and slay their leader, who is, of course, the blood elf we just took out to get the plans in the first place. Tolan thinks if we get rid of her, that the rest will retreat. I guess it's worth a shot. Nope, they still seem to be here. Since we already turned in the Blood Elf spy plans earlier, Tolan has nothing else to request from us. Before I headed back to the crash site to let Vindicator Aldar know what was going on, I decided to head back to Nestlewood Thicket to see if I could find another squirrel that may have come back from the dead. I never did find one, but I did find a skunk, which actually was another one I needed, so all was not wasted. I also found a gray moth that I still had not collected, so I switched out some of my pets and went to battle to try and catch him.
Success.
Back at the crash site, we fill Vindicator Aldar in on what has transpired at Shadow Ridge. He's furious that the Blood Elves have followed them, but thankful that we were able to find out their plans, and they'll worry about dealing with any remaining that lurk close by. While we were out dealing with the Blood Elves, Zana was able to fix the emitter, and it's starting to work. We have one final quest to accept here in Ammen Vale. We are to travel to Azure Watch and speak with Divun. We need to see if they can help send aid and supplies, and the rest will follow when they can. It was at this point that I decided I really needed to figure out what was going on with my all the things. I still have only 33% completed in Ammen Vale, which I just thought couldn't be right. Drilling down a little deeper into the Elixir of Lion's Strength mystery, I realized it was somehow linked to some quest called Elixirs for the Blade Leafs, which was an alchemy profession quest from Teldrassil. Why this was even coming up for Ammen Vale is beyond me. I tried disabling recipes in my general settings, but it still didn't update. I also saw that there were several transmog items from BFA through BFA currency that was also tracking in this zone, and at that point I was thoroughly confused and figured I would just not count that or deal with it when I got a little higher level. It kind of bothered me a little bit though, because my goal was to complete the zone before moving on. I ended up riding around for a bit, making sure there wasn't anything else that I missed, and I came across this spot I had never seen before, guarded by a rock elemental called the Spirit of the Vale. This was the sacred grove and had several elementals fighting each other. I feel like this was used for something at some point, but doesn't appear to be anymore, and there was nothing much to do here, but it was cool to stumble across. Then one of the restless spirits of the earth decided to pick a fight with me, but I won and got to level 8 in the process. I went back to the crash site just to say goodbye and opened up my ATT one last time, and somehow, some way, It corrected itself. It showed I had 96.29% of Ammen Vale completed, and the only thing left to do was turn in the Azure Watch, which I had just picked up. So in the next episode, we will hit 100% complete, which is super exciting. So I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you like this format for these collecting episodes. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and maybe share it with your friends. You guys are awesome, and I will see you in the next video.